I am Kaneen Mafa, and this is
SAWAH,
And what does SWAT mean, dear?
person who likes to understand, so asks a lot of questions.
Okay, so you added the understanding part. Who likes to understand? So you're defining why you ask a lot. Oh, I like that.
Yes.
Well, add that in. Let him know. Welcome to another edition of our trans Laylim Layler lesbian interracial. Well, we ain't really none of those things, but that is probably something that you would say living in the world that we live in. What we do, we really don't like to put labels on it. Well, you like to put labels on it. You love trans this and trans that and trans this and trans that. And it's probably because even though I am younger, I started my transition nearly 30 years ago, and you started your transition nearly 6 years ago, but you're 30 years older than me. So, I mean, that's my perspective of why you always like to talk about trans this and trans that, you know, a little bit more than me these days. Why do you like to say trans this and trans that, dear?
I like to get the word out, basically, and like in the play of Transcript, we talk about how God loves everybody, and especially He loves transgender people.
He loves transgender people.
Yes.
God is a he.
And if God was he or she, God would.
Okay, because I thought it was a little patriarchy, dear.
No, it's not patriarchy.
He loves us. Oh, he loves us. Is that what they taught you in transcripts? He loves us.
Yes.
He loves us.
That's right. And her story is living the true images of life.
Okay. So, when are we going to do this porno flick so that we could raise money for Laylim Laylar? Because, like, people are not just, like, donating money to the art and stuff. And I think that if we just go ahead and just sell out for a minute and do, like, a little hot porno flick, you know, I could have your nice wrinkled pink butt, you know, tooted up and put on a big old strap on, and we could make it get hot for the people, huh? You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't think so.
Sitting on here like two cows grazing out to pastures. You know what I'm saying? But we ain't missing no meals. Thank you, God, us, Laylim Layler. But we were talking about how we was gonna raise this money, and so I was like, let's do a porno flick. You know, because I think that, you know, we are both comfortable with our bodies. You know, even though you just became a grandmother twice, so I don't know if you want your grandbabies to see that. But, you know, I'm thinking that it could be sexually liberating for us as lesbian women. Well, not necessarily lesbian women, because I don't want to put this on lesbian women, because lesbian women going to be trying to say, we're trying to make a character as Laylim Layler beings who happen to look like women in some people's opinion. As Laylim Layler whole beings who are both physical and spiritual. What do you think?
I think that a benefactor should come across from who knows where, it could be anywhere, and help you or help us.
Help us, that's right.
Help us to further the cause. We are doing everything we can. Your paintings are wonderful. New Orleans mayor from down loves them. Everybody in the office loves them. You have been speaking at universities.
And it's a scandalous thing. Did you hear what happened at the march?
Which march?
Well, I hear that there was a little bit of tension, you know, because you accepted the award on my behalf, you know, and also there was a little bit of frustration around a trans woman went to the bathroom and she was misgendered and threw out of the bathroom.
Well,
and so what do you think? Do you think our city's doing enough? Do you think the LGBT Planning Council's doing enough? You know, how confident are you in our city to meet the needs of, you know, people who traditionally been on the borders or fringes of society?
It was not in City Hall when that happened. It was over there by the French Market, and it was done by a cleaning person.
At the march?
No, this
happened at Milan's march.
It did.
At the Trans March of Resilience.
Well, I talked to the person who had the incident on their birthday on November the 3rd. I think it was November 3rd. And they said that it happened over by the French Market on Decatur.
There's a lot of mixed information.
And when I was brought it to the attention of the city officials, they were horrified and wanted particulars of it.
And so because we're working with the city and receiving proclamations and things of that nature, we probably shouldn't do the porno flick.
No, it's not that. I think that there's another way to gain
financial capital. I mean, it's working for Kanye and what's her name? First lady, porn star. Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are doing amazing. You know, they started a new movement. Well, not necessarily a new movement because it's attributed to King Jesus, but they started a spiritual movement, and you know, he is not upset about the fact that Kim Kardashian, had to sexually exploit herself. And now look at her. She's a missionary going to get black men out of the prison. She went from porn star to missionary. Why can't I? Why can't I, dear? Why won't you support me in that, dear?
Because I think...
Dear, we could make a lot of money with this porn, dear.
Because I think you have a sexy body.
You realize that money isn't everything.
Dear, we need resources, dear, so that we can build up the tribe and so that we can create, like if you think about it, Tyler Perry got his start and there was some shady beginnings. Like, Tyler Perry got sued by Sophia. Sophia has her own radio show, and Sophia sued Tyler Perry for the Madea caricature. But Tyler Perry, really, the money that he's made to be able to buy these studios was responsible for stealing someone else's idea. So in order to get that money, you have to be willing to do some things that people are going to side-eye. So I'm saying, because we're in the community that's supposed to be accepting, you know, and not supposed to be judgmental, with their support, we should go ahead. I mean, you've lived 72 years of your life being traditional, playing it by the book. You waited forever to transition.
You waited forever to transition.
And you love sex, don't you? Now tell the truth, dear. Tell the people that you love sex.
I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment.
Dear.
I'll take
Dear. Tell these people that you love sex.
I enjoy it.
Okay, and you're not ashamed of it, right?
And I'm not ashamed of it.
Okay, if you're not ashamed of it, then why should we keep our sex life a secret? It will be adult. No children can watch it. Only adults can watch this. Only adults will be able to. And it is two divinely feminine XY beings who celebrate their XX, making passionate, sensitive, affectionate love. It's the laying of hands. It's the communion. It's caring for the elderly. That's right. You know, elderly people need love too. And so who would not support that? Like, we don't see enough elderly, gender non-conforming, queer porn.
This is interracial, like this is so many things. And how many elderly males who are afraid to transition could be inspired to grow soft, milky breasts and just, you know, put down their guns and put down their war weapons and put down their weapons of mass destruction because you were a veteran, dear, and you put down the weapons of war to grow boobs so that you could be more soft and sensitive and be a grandmother. Dear, we should explore that completely nude in front of the camera. Don't you think so, dear?
Draw a picture.
You should draw a picture of that.
Okay, I do think a nude picture of me and you would be good. I was thinking of that, maybe for a painting, you know?
Yes, you should do a picture and do silhouette.
Silhouette.
Yes.
No, I should do it graphically.
Graphically.
Yeah, it should show everything. The wrinkles and everything. Wrinkles, cellulite dents, you know, all that. Stretch marks. We want all of that.
Really?
Because, yes, we don't want to airbrush it. We don't want to use the colonizers' methods and whitewash it. We want the dimples, the wrinkles. We want the cellulite dinks. We want it all. We don't want to make a make-believe world. We want to show what the world really looks like. And I think that that's what we need to do. Now, tell me, what do you think about, do you feel like there's a hole now, you know, to jump off of that subject? Because Sasha, you know, she's fighting me on this whole porn thing. But, you know, let us know in the comments down below, you know, if you are yay or nay. And if you say no, don't come with any of this traditional stuff, this regurgitated mess.
You have like a real authentic
Reason why you feel like, you know, some of y'all maybe don't want to see, you know, a trans woman without a penis and an elderly trans woman go at it. Maybe you don't, you know, and it's definitely not going to be the type of visual experience for everyone. You know, I'm still growing, you know. I want Sasha to have a vagina, you know. So, you know, I'm more comfortable without her lady part. You know, I wish she had a vagina, you know, because I'm attracted to the softness in her. You know, when Sasha first started her transition, I was not attracted to her. I got more attracted to her as she began to look more feminine. You know, and that's the weird thing, is that when she was in the earlier parts of her transition, she looked a little perverted to me. You know, just like one of those cyber internet stalkers. Because her hair was real thick and bushy, and, you know, she wore these boy clothes and these clunky shoes, and, you know, she was just weird to me, you know, and so, like, it was just a weirdness. But I think now, you know, she's just like devoted her life to, you know, being in service of deeply melanated trans women and African American women and African women and women of color in general. And I think that the behaviors and the energy, she's definitely started to get more on that frequency. And because she's so comfortable, you know, with being attracted to femininity, I think that that's what makes me feel comfortable with exploring my attraction to femininity. So I definitely feel like my relationship with Sasha is like a gateway, you know, back into more femme on femme relationships. You know, definitely, I feel my connection with people who choose to present in a more masculine way kind of dwindling, like my desire for them. I'm not going to say that the desire is not still there. I mean, clearly, you know, I was just with my other partner in New York, and we spent time together, but that was very challenging for me, not on the physical sense, but just all of the drama that goes with the behaviors that are associated with the roles that we fall into when a trans femme or a trans woman shares space with a cisgender black or African American male or a deeply melanated male who is the descendants of slaves in this nation. When we share space, and especially if he's been incarcerated or done time in the military, like sharing space becomes difficult because anytime we try to assert ourselves or exercise any type of power, it's seen as us trying to be the man, instead of fitting into this imaginary box of what it means to be a woman. And I think in a lot of ways you support this whole make-believe box of what it means to be a woman, Sasha, because you've wanted to be like, you get so happy when you're getting your nails polished. I polished them today, and yesterday she wanted to wear makeup yesterday, and I didn't put the makeup on her, and she kind of pouted, because she wanted her makeup done. And so we did a little makeup today. As you could see. Get into it.
I think that Layla Layla is about being whole. I definitely want to have content that is suitable for youth, for young people. I definitely have a goal of reaching them, but I feel like maybe we just have to, pull like Eddie Murphy did. Eddie Murphy was dating trans women, and I heard this from reliable sources, and then all of a sudden, a trans woman wound up missing, and then Eddie Murphy decided he wanted to do children's, Dr. Doolittle and The Clumps, and so like, it was like, you have to get that scandal that makes you relevant so that you can get near that payday, and then when you get that payday, then you just go ahead and switch it over and do what you really want to do. You know what I'm saying?
I can't afford to be in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood right now.
But you're lowering your standards when you do that. You basically you have achieved, you've achieved, as we've seen through media and throughout. You were the reason why the prison system in New Orleans was changed.
I mean,
Right?
I started a conversation. I planted the seeds and started a conversation when I got Orlando Westbrook to see the video with all the trans women who came together and talked about what was going on. And then Wes and members of Breakout, my daughter kind of like took that over and started to do that work. But the initial conversation, even before me, Deeki, may the ancestors bless and keep her wherever her energy is, now, she actually went to the planning council, and I was inspired by her going to the planning council about what happened to her. And then I got all of these girls together in the London Lodge, and we did a video that changed the narrative for trans people, and it got us the exposure that we needed by the powers that be to really, get the ball rolling so that a lot of really needed work could go forward.
What are your goals? I know we're trying to have a space in New York for queer artists and transgender women that can come in a safe space, and if they and pursue their dreams in a place where they wouldn't be hurt, they could feel comfortable, they could mingle.
Yes, the Underground Railroad is very important to me. Power to the people. Say it with me, dear. 1, 2, 3.
Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. And your picture of power to the people.
It's right.
What was shown in the lobby of the play transcript, and everybody's seen it and remarked about it.
Because there are sometimes, like for example, when I was telling you I wanted this international plan for when I go to Africa, and you were like, that's gonna cost extra money, and you didn't want to have to pay for that plan. And I just feel like, sometimes you have less faith in the American system, and in big business and in these capitalists than I do. And it really amazes me because, like, I am a little bit more of an optimist than Sasha is. And Sasha, is clearly Caucasian. And so this reality, and so we're told, was created for, her prosperity, being born with an XY chromosome and entering this reality, in a male form. We would think that, you would just really have all the faith in the world for this nation, right?
No.
Because of
Wait, hold on. You don't believe that this nation is just the bee's knees?
No, what's happening is we have a government that doesn't know how to compromise, doesn't understand people in other countries, ways in other countries, how to get together with other people and have peace, but not war. We are all immigrants as such, but we treat people now as immigrants as, I don't know what. We are going back to in the 20s and 30s when groups like the Italians and the Jewish people were persecuted. We are doing that now. We are doing back to the period when, before World War II, we were isolationists, and Jewish people that were suffering were on boats and were turned away by the United States. We're going back to that part now. We're not, we are not utilizing sources that would be helpful to us. In our country, we have had a situation whereby lots of us don't want to do menial type work. We don't want to dig ditches. We don't want to do that or whatever. And even if we are going to get $15 and $20, we can't find people like that. We had to go across the border and get them. We had to go and get across the border in the and the country, of the different countries, and get nurses. We had a shortage of nurses. So basically, we need each other. We need, the people. We need, like, you're going to Africa. We need the African ideas, the medicine, and everything else, right?
And I personally believe that we don't need to be arguing with each other and always talking about racism, as we seem to do, just so focused on racism. And, like...
No. I don't think it's racism. I'm talking about...
No, I'm just saying, like, that is one of the things that keeps us stagnant, is, like, we keep having the same conversations over and over and over again.
Who?
I personally, like, I don't spend a lot of time around white people. I have Caucasian friends and definitely a partner, and I don't really consider you Caucasian. I think that you're kind of like mud or a mixed breed. Mud or a mixed breed. But I spend time around them, but I don't like spend all my time around them. So I don't really know how they feel or what they say when I'm not around. But, just speaking for people who look like me or people who share my genetic aesthetic, I feel like
they frequent the establishment. they frequent spaces and places that are governed by people who created this nation and did not have darker hues, people with big wide noses and thick lips and really kinky curly hair in mind. Like when the Constitution was created, it was not considerate of women. It considered African American people as 3/5 of a human being. And so we understand that when the creators of this nation or the founding fathers came together, they had a very specific vision that did not include a lot of things. And so when we access these spaces, it's like we want to go in them because we want the resources, we want the additional disposable income, we want this idea of we've claimed the American dream and life, liberty, and this, this pursuit of this thing we visualize to be happiness, because it's been ingrained in our minds through propaganda, through media, through constant brainwashing. And so we pursue these things, and we have to go into these spaces with these people who created these spaces without us in mind, and we get bitter, and then we want to talk forever and ever.
So why not change? Make the changes
about the same thing. We want to talk forever and ever about the same thing.
Make the changes.
One person can lead a march. Like the transgender march.
Yeah, the transgender march of resilience. I really do honestly foresee that being a very influential entity. I foresee that in the future, and I hope my daughter, has the strength and the courage and the tenacity to keep it up. Because it's really going to change the landscape of this area for people who have been traditionally marginalized by this society.
I think Mayor Cantrell's office and through their are working with that. They are working to have laws that protect everybody.
Because trans means changed, and if we focus on that more so than what you're changing, and just focus on what the word means. The word means to change. There is no specification on what you're changing. You could be changing your mind. You could be changing yourself physically. You could be in the process of changing. You could be changed. You could want to just go on a journey where you end up changing everything, but no one gets to determine what that change is going to look like for you. That's why I always say you can't define my pussy or you can't define my tuna, because you can't tell me what my journey through this construct of womanhood, because let's be honest, womanhood and manhood is a construct. So when I say, when you say the real women stand up, what you're saying is, will the real constructs of this reality stand up? When you say, will the real men stand up, you're saying, will the real constructs of manhood stand up? Because at the end of the day, a man is someone who we're led to believe has an XY chromosome. A woman is someone who we've traditionally believed had XX chromosomes, but the capacity and the potential that is within that XX surpasses what we know to be the construct of womanhood, because not everyone with an XX chromosome identifies as a woman. So just by calling yourself a woman, you've already decreased your value, because you are no longer embracing everything that has ties to the XX chromosome. And the same thing with XY chromosome. When you restrict it to manhood, when you restrict it to that cult or that cult idea of what it means to be a man, you have now disconnected yourself from other things that were created XY that don't identify with the title of manhood. So that has decreased in value as well.
So, how are you going or we as an organization, how are we making people aware of it and making changes?
We are speaking about it. We're talking about Laylim Layler. We are creating terms like Brister, which means brother sister, or Mada, which is the hybrid of mother daddy, or Fama, which is the hybrid of father mother. You know, so Kaneen itself is a hybrid of king and queen. So we're creating words that fuse together masculine and feminine energy, hence bringing us back to a state where we look at ourselves and all of the ways in which we're connected to each other, because XX and XY have a factor in common, and that's the X. X is the common factor, and so X is where it all started, and X is, when we think of X, we think of the divine feminine. And so really, in actuality, the divine feminine probably just took on another form and shape-shifted and created masculinity.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How does...
And it may have been a part of the de-evolution, or like people try to say, like how, you know, there are birth defects, like the XY chromosome could have been a birth defect originally. It could have been like they try to say trans people, you know, we are mentally touched, or there wasn't proper care taking care of us during the pregnancy, and so, you know, this birth defect created. So I mean, if you really think about it, XX is actually something in which you can get XY out of just by removing one of the legs off of the X. You could get the Y. So this could have been a degenerative metamorphosis because we got stuck in a plane of consciousness too long, like being in our coronal shells, being in these coronal physical shells too long, you know, could have created this space that allowed that genetic variable to manifest, you know. And I feel like we have the potential to come together and mentally create something that could usher in a completely different reality, you know, if we were to come together and we did not allow ourselves to continuously be divided. This is the gumbo. If we would come together and be this galactic gumbo, you know, all of these beautiful, colorful things that look different, but when they come together, they make something beautiful. And maybe if we could taste it, they would taste good together. But the most important thing we want you to remember is power to the people. We want to thank you for joining us today on this live as we sit here, babbled, ranted, talked a little bit about a lot of things, and it was great being able to share this time and space with you.
And give us suggestions of what we can talk about.
Yeah.
And how we can further your understanding.
Yes.
To change from his story to her story.
Or their story. Or our story. Or her history. So thank you so much for watching. I am Kaneen Mafa.
SAWAH.
And we are Laylim Layler. Benai Pepinai Handararosa, which means the light shines in us, and together we shall win. Bound and round, both circle and square, we too speak life. Operations beware, sending healing to those in despair. Il Babosawa, we come in peace. No harm to any. Laylim Layler, Layler Laylim. We can both live on inside of her and him. Until next time, be whole and behold the wholeness that lives in you and me. The legacy and NOLA is on the map. Know this. 2020, here we come.